drawing. I'm Robert, and I'll be your guide on this meditative practice through the act of drawing. Each week on Tuesday morning, I sit down with my journal and write a few sentences about something on my mind, and quickly then try to transition that into a meditation that can be about movement, about the expression of the pen or pencil on the page, and sketch out a few ideas that hopefully I can turn into an exercise. After a few minutes, I usually settle on one that can be described in a simple series of techniques, a simple series of movement and motion that connects our breath to the way we hold a pen or pencil, to how we put that pencil onto the page. A series of motions, many together forming a larger whole. And this week's exercise is a meditation on layering, on the suppleness of how we can hold on to something, a center, but also the opening up, the release of that central space, the emptiness, into a broader territory, and a chance for connection, for new alignments, for finding and discovery. Because they often start with a quick sketch and sketchbook, there's some general guidance or attention in my mind that may be coming through on the paper, but each one is wildly different by the time we see it here emerge in the practice. So whatever you find, whether it's following along with what I might draw on the paper, or just listening and letting your own hand move the way it wants to move, I hope it's interesting, and please feel free to share with me at Rooksisfun on Instagram, or leave a comment below and give it a thumbs up if you enjoy the exercise. We'll start with a quick warm-up. So you might need a couple of pieces of paper. I use a little note card to get started and establish the technique, and then move on to a large sheet here of Bristol to do the exercise with. But you can use whatever you have handy, a sketchbook, some printer paper, anything you can move a pen or pencil around on, or anything else you'd like to draw with for that matter. So go ahead and gather your supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. Here I just have a note card to kind of get established on, and I thought today could look at a meditation through the drawing on kind of the supple grasp or hold, a softer, more open center. That way we can give space for other things to emerge, and maybe a little bit of a flower inspiration in there with spring in full swing now. Thought we'd start with a couple of ways of forming space around a center. Something very simple, like a C shape, a little bit more open or a little bit more closed. They can reach and grasp around a space without closing it in too much. And beginning to layer those shapes, each one kind of the same, but also a little different, around the next in different degrees of tightness or looseness. Something we can explore through the multiple and the longer format exercise. But right now, just getting a sense of that technique. And they could also be little arcs. They don't need to be angled, whatever suits how you feel like drawing today. With this kind of cabbage or onion wrapping the layers around each other. Each will be a unique instance, so it can relate or not relate to the ones before it. And after a few more of these, just getting a feel for that motion. I've been mostly moving counterclockwise here, but you could try a few in the other direction from whatever you had been doing. Again, just priming up the senses, the attention, and the technique for that time of mindful exploration. Just a little C shape, working in to out, or perhaps out to in, and we'll have opportunities for both. All right. With that established and on a new page or territory, taking a moment to just get familiar with the boundaries of the page, your position relative to it. How are you sitting? Are you in kind of a stable, postured base? You align yourself in a comfortable way to the paper, whether it's fixed or free. Make sure you can reach to all the corners with some degree of facility or comfort. And then finding anywhere that feels like a point to start on the page. We'll begin again, taking a breath in and letting that first open shape form on the page. A moment loosely establishing some center in there. After that first mark opens the territory, taking a couple of breaths and being present to enter the next mark, wrapping around it lightly, moving loosely around that center, both opening it by establishing it on the page and lightly grasping the space there. Holding things as we may have to, like this pen or pencil, a tool, a notebook. We don't need to grip them too close, too tight, just a balanced hold of pressure and friction. Taking a breath to release some of the intention and let the shape you're establishing emerge onto the paper. Each one a cycle of connection, breathing in to establish your position, and out to wrap that center. Move at the pace that suits you, perhaps a breath or two between, or right into each one in series, breathing in to find that place for the pen, and out to move with the next wrapping or layer. Using the breath to bring the attention to each action, to detach it from the whole for a while. The eyes may guide, the hand may follow, but in the mind we're just making each kind of open C shape. The body accommodating the change in space, a slower breath or a slower hand as things get larger and more expansive. And after the next couple of marks, you may find some encroachment on the edges of the territory. You can begin again with a new center, perhaps working in from the out, now that we've established some technique. Further into the center you've marked, breathing in to find the location, and out again to gently grasp towards that supple open center. Moving in both directions, fluid, in to out or out to in. Using that as an opportunity to notice, to observe where there may be differences. Is there a different sensation of tracking where the pen or pencil may go? I find a little more kind of pull to a line, moving inward, approaching something different than the expanding outward. Breathing through that different sensation, and at any time You can always find a new center and begin again, working with just the shape, just a soft wrapping of that space. And if you come towards the edges of the paper, encroach on the edges of former shapes, let the pen move as feels right. Could cross over, gradually align, perhaps drift off the page, come back into the frame. And we'll work with a few more of these shape layers, building a field out of the individual, practicing that oscillation from in to out, out to in, engaging our observation and how different trajectories, different motions of the hand, different cycles of compression and expansion in the breath bring new sensations, subtle in the action of moving the pen or pencil across the paper, as our awareness deepens in the presence of the act of drawing. What other things do you begin to notice? The angle of the wrist and the hand, the position of the fingers on the pen. Take a few moments and open up to that soft noticing of the subtle, all of the pieces present in any action. Maybe one or two more wrappings of the shape in a couple of minutes, holding presence in that space of sensation, of noticing the interaction of the senses. Of letting the technique be the guide on the journey through awareness. It's present, but in the background, just a gentle direction, the vehicle for an opportunity to practice that mindful attention, to be in a space of the soft, open center. To be in the space of creating with our presence between the page and this instrument and our breath. And as you work on the completion of wherever you're at in the revolution around that center, we'll transition to a phase of reading, a phase of interacting with the field we've created here, the many similar forms. Now finding what our eye responds to. will come to a close on whichever cycle you're working with at your own pace. There's no rush. And the next phase is a re-inhabiting, re-engaging with the new territory, finding a way perhaps to bring thickness or depth to the layers. You'll just do a light kind of offset, a repeating action, giving it a bit of thickness to it there. Using the opportunity of the space to thicken in or out. Tracking along the same general technique, now as a tool for reading the territory, reading the space of the drawing that we made, building layers, not only on the paper in that two-dimensional plane, but layers of attention, the expression of the action, the expression of the reading, the action inscribing deeper presence. But we're still just moving that open shape, that C or arc around a loose center. And still engage the cycle of our breath. Now that the space is established, a new look inward and reading of that rhythm, breathing in, breathing out, finding the connection that suits us, breathing in to establish, out for action, or trying the other way, breathing in with action, and out to release between the moments of that focused attention to the page. In to absorb what our eyes observe, and out to release it into the space of the technique. Release into the drawing's own character, present from our near past, a place for our now. And in the exercise, the drawing does not have to remain constant. At any time, you can take a break to just be in the space you've established, to find some presence. And we'll take a few minutes here for you to explore that second layering of technique, of breath, of forming on the page, and contemplate those soft centers grasped lightly. Notice there in that quiet opening of space between you and the drawing, I found my attention drawn to the way my hand grips the pen, the direction of movement, changing pressures, finding the same softness and suppleness to that grip of the instrument as was the inspiration in the exercise. You may find the supple in how your feet touch the floor, how you sit in the chair, perhaps in how the breeze comes through the window. What territory has the drawing opened up for you beyond its presence on the page, into your presence in your space? And as it has opened up that connection here, perhaps we can take a little time of free drawing with it to find new things or complete the cycles, whichever you prefer and where you're at. For myself, the place of connection across the layers opens up in my imagination just some light sequence of lines to bring a final phase to the exercise. Close shapes connected across empty space. Each line a repetition in the act of drawing to bring sequence. Working around the established space and finding a third layering, a soft tissue connecting, sometimes over, sometimes through, exploring the arbitrary connections, emergent, in following the path of the exercise and letting go or opening the path of intention. Strange alignments, awkward overlaps or misconnections. Free zones, unbound. All inhabit that space in the drawing, a world to explore, the medium or vehicle of exploration, just some short strokes, some simple shapes collected together in space. The medium of breath and of mindful presence to your action. And perhaps today we'll close out with just 3 or 4 minutes of continued, present, quiet drawing, exploring whatever facets of the shape page interaction that your eye is drawn to, that your hand feels engaged with, and following them along to see where they go. Bringing the more conscious action back into the present. I find the practice present in even something like these short, repetitive strokes, an exercise in precision or acceptance of the variabilities in precision, each one training the eye and hand to have more alignment, but each one also affected by position, by potential fatigue, by coordination, and just letting them be what they are for a while, accepting that perhaps the eye and hand will get closer, perhaps they will find their balance. And what can I find in the space that they are now? And with that, we can bring the exercise to a close. If you're enjoying the drawing and have time, feel free to continue. We'll let the pen or pencil come to rest wherever it may be. The rest, just there on the page. Give the hands a little stretch back and forth, perhaps. Open up those fingers after some attention. Get them realigned on both sides. And I thank you for joining and hope you have a good rest of your day. Wherever you may be in your experience, skill set of your drawing journey, of your creative practice or journey, each time you give yourself a few minutes to engage deeply, to find practice in your space, to explore a simple technique or concept with complete presence. Expand that repertoire of creative intuition, flexibility, nuance. This is Rooks is Fun. Signing off. Draw well. Thank you.